My name's Daniel Foster. I'm 47 years old, living in Boise, Idaho. Not a flashy life, but it was mine. 2 kids, a steady career in logistics, and a wife I thought I'd grow old with. We'd been married almost 18 years. Long enough that I could tell her mood from the way she set down her coffee cup. Or so I thought. You ever have one of those moments that cracks your whole world open in half? Mine came on a quiet Saturday evening. Nothing special. I was out back cleaning the grill, overheard my wife and her friends laughing inside. You'd think it was just harmless chatter. But then I heard my name, and then something that stopped me cold. Laughter, sharp and cruel, followed by her bragging that I still hadn't figured out she'd been cheating on me for years. "He's so dumb he thinks I'm at yoga," she said. Not the words exactly, but the venom behind them stuck. I didn't walk in. I didn't yell. I didn't even finish cleaning the grill. I just stood there, hand on the wire brush, staring at nothing while their laughter echoed through the window like a hammer hitting my ribs. Some men explode. Some crumble. I went quiet. That night, while she slept curled up on the couch like nothing was wrong, I sat in the garage with my laptop. I opened a spreadsheet. That's how it began. Not with rage. With numbers. After that night, things didn't explode. They calcified. I kept playing the part of the oblivious husband. Morning coffee, taking the trash out, even date night, once a week like nothing had changed. But behind that calm mask, I was rewriting everything. The spreadsheet wasn't dramatic. At first, it was just bank records. Recurring charges that didn't fit her alibi. A second gym membership she never mentioned. Hotel transactions in Twin Falls during weekends she claimed to be with the girls. Uber rides at strange hours. It was all there, hiding in plain sight. I started forwarding her emails to a private account. Synced her cloud storage. There was more than I expected. Photos, old messages, even an appointment confirmation for something she once said was a work seminar, but was actually a couple spa package. I didn't cry. That surprised me. Maybe I was already emotionally divorced and just hadn't admitted it yet. Now, I should say this. I wasn't a perfect husband. I wasn't romantic, and I sure wasn't thrilling. I brought stability, not fireworks. But I never lied, never cheated, never made her feel unsafe. I thought that counted for something. Apparently, it just made me a convenient placeholder. She was a master actress, though. I'll give her that. She'd crawl into bed next to me after her yoga class, humming some mellow tune like she was at peace. I'd lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about every single moment I missed, replaying it all in my mind. The late-night texting, the gym clothes she kept in the car, the sudden decision to reconnect with herself by taking solo trips, even the way she kept pushing the idea of opening separate bank accounts just for budgeting. At first I thought, maybe it was just one guy. A mistake. A fling. That would hurt, sure. But what I found made it worse. It wasn't one guy. There were 3. Maybe more. One of them was a co-worker she claimed to hate. Another was a neighbor's cousin she met at a barbecue. I remember the night vividly. I was inside grilling burgers while she laughed a little too loudly outside, wine in hand. The third was some random name from Venmo, which I later traced to a private Instagram full of selfies and fire emojis. She had a double life, and I'd been cast as the fool. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I didn't want a scene. I wanted strategy. So I got to work. First, I opened a new bank account and started redirecting part of my paycheck into it. Nothing suspicious, just enough to prepare. I rented a P.O. box and slowly started migrating my mail. I scanned every important document, marriage license, birth certificates, car titles, and saved it all to a hard drive she didn't know existed. Next, I found an apartment on the other side of town. Month-to-month lease. Paid the deposit in cash. No red flags. Then came the hardest part, pretending I still loved her. I kissed her goodnight. I laughed at her stories. I held her hand at her niece's piano recital while her phone buzzed with texts from a contact labeled Andrea. I even made her favorite breakfast on Sundays, because I needed her to believe I was still asleep. That's what betrayal does to you. It doesn't just break your heart. It rewires your instincts. Turns love into calculus. I couldn't trust a thing she said, but I could trust the numbers. And the numbers were painting a very clear picture. 3 weeks. That's how long I gave myself. Quietly, methodically, I built my exit plan like an engineer designing a bridge. I wasn't just walking away. I was going to make sure she fell when I did. And when I did, she'd feel it. Week 2 started with a lie. She told me she was going on a weekend yoga retreat. It was always yoga. This time it was Bend, Oregon, some cabin in the woods where phones are discouraged and self-discovery is on the brochure. I smiled and told her to be safe. Helped her pack. tucked one of her scarves into the duffel bag like a doting husband. Then I waited 10 minutes after she pulled out of the driveway and opened the GPS tracker I tucked into the lining of her car the week before. She didn't go to Bend. She didn't even leave the city. Instead, she drove to a townhouse complex in Meridian. Parked. Went inside. Didn't leave for 36 hours. I know because I watched. The tracker pinged every 30 minutes. And yes, I watched the house. Parked 4 blocks away and walked past with a baseball cap pulled low, just to see. That's when I saw him. He was everything I wasn't. Younger. Probably mid-30s. Gym body, stylish clothes, a beard that looked deliberately scruffy. The type of guy who calls brunch a vibe. He walked out to check the mail like he owned the world, then came back inside with a smug little bounce in his step. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was mockery. She came home Sunday night with fake exhaustion on her face and eucalyptus oil in her purse. Said the retreat was transformative. Said she felt recentered. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and asked how the food was. She said the quinoa bowls were amazing. I said I'd love to try them sometime. Inside, something burned. Not rage. Not sadness. Just that deep, brittle clarity that comes when your love for someone fully dies and all you feel is precision. That week, I contacted a lawyer, someone my buddy Greg recommended. A woman named Felicia out of Nampa. Sharp. Calm. Ruthless with numbers. She said I'd already done more prep work than half her clients do in 6 months. I liked her immediately. We put together a plan. Idaho's a no-fault state, which means I didn't need to prove anything, but the documentation I had would help with custody, assets, and leverage. We set a date, 3 weeks from now. That gave me time to move the last of our joint funds into an account in my name only and start transitioning bills to my name, or out of both our names entirely. I made copies of everything, stored them on an encrypted drive, a flash drive, and a folder hidden in plain sight labeled car manuals. The morning after the lawyer call, I brought her coffee in bed. She smiled and reached for her phone, probably texting him. My stomach turned, but I kissed her forehead and told her I was going to run errands. I wasn't. I drove across town to the apartment I'd leased under a different name, paid 6 months in advance, stocked it with a mattress, a coffee maker, and a stack of fresh towels. It was small, sparse, but it was mine, and it was ready. There's a strange calm that settles over you when you've accepted the truth. Not the version of truth you hope is real, but the cold, clean kind that doesn't flinch when you look it in the eye. I stopped asking why. I stopped wondering if it was my fault, or if I could have fixed it. Instead, I started practicing the moment. I'd visualize how it would go, the final confrontation. The look on her face when the facade collapsed. The silence that would follow when she realized I'd outplayed her, not with rage, but with restraint. That part mattered to me. I didn't want to be the man who screamed. I wanted to be the man who walked away without raising his voice, but left her entire world burning behind him. I had a folder on my desktop labeled tax stuff. Inside it was everything. Screenshots of text messages between her and 3 different men. Some of them sent while she was sitting next to me on the couch. Bank transfers to his secret account I traced back to her friend's name. Hotel receipts. Even a dating app profile I found that she'd created under her maiden name, claiming to be single, seeking someone adventurous. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was studying her like a stranger, like a case file. The only time I came close to losing it was the night I found a message she'd sent to one of them saying, "He's so passive, he probably wouldn't even notice if I left." That one stung, because I had noticed. And I wasn't being passive, I was being patient. That Friday, we hosted a small get-together at the house. Just a few neighbors, some coworkers. She loved throwing these fake perfect gatherings. She floated around the room in a flowy dress, sipping white wine, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. I stood by the grill, flipping burgers, watching her like she was an actor in a play I'd seen too many times. And then I heard it. She was in the kitchen, tipsy, leaning into one of her girlfriends, same ones who laughed that day I first overheard everything. She thought I couldn't hear from the patio, but I could. She told them I was checked out, said she was just biding her time until she figured out how to leave with everything she could get. Laughed about how easy I was to manipulate. Called me her retirement plan with legs. And they laughed again. That was the last laugh she'd have. I finished cleaning up, said goodbye to the guests, smiled as I waved them off into the night. She kissed me goodnight like nothing had happened. But something had. That night, I printed the divorce papers. I had the papers. Clean. Sharp. Final. My lawyer made sure every line was airtight. Financial disclosures. Property divisions. Custody details. And the last page, my personal favorite, a notarized list of evidence. Not because I needed it for the court, but because I needed her to see it. to understand what silence had been hiding. It was a Friday. The sun was out, sky perfect. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, humming to herself, barefoot, pouring almond milk into her overpriced blender. She smiled at me, casual and warm, as if we weren't standing on a landmine she didn't know was live. I almost told her then. Almost threw the papers on the counter and walked out. But I didn't, because I wanted her to feel it all at once. So instead, I leaned against the doorway, told her I was heading into work early, kissed her cheek, and left. I didn't go to work. I went to the apartment, sat on the bare mattress, closed my eyes, breathed, ran through the checklist. Everything was ready, every financial account transferred, every password changed, every asset locked down or relocated. Her name was no longer on anything that mattered. At 11:07 a.m., I wired the remaining funds from our joint account to mine. 10 minutes later, I closed the account entirely. I expected a call or a text. There was none. Maybe she didn't notice. Maybe she thought it was routine. Or maybe she was too busy planning her next lie. At 1:30 p.m., I delivered the signed papers to Felicia's office. She smiled a small, proud smile. I asked her how long service would take. She said she could have it on the kitchen table by Saturday morning. I nodded. That worked. Back at the house, I acted normal. Watched TV with her that night. Ordered takeout. She leaned on my shoulder while scrolling through her phone, laughing at memes. I stared at the reflection in the darkened window, watching her laugh at a world I was about to take away from her. She had no clue. That was the part that chilled me, how convincing I'd become. Not out of cruelty. Out of survival. Because if you want to leave clean, you don't announce the storm. You become the quiet before it. And when it hits, you leave no doubt who made the weather. It happened on a Saturday, 9:12 a.m. I was already gone. The night before, while she slept in our bed, my bed, technically, considering the name on the deed, I packed what little I needed into a single duffel bag. Clothes. The flash drive. The notebook with the original spreadsheet. Nothing sentimental. Just essentials. I left the ring on the bathroom counter. That felt symbolic. Not dramatic. Just final. The papers were on the kitchen table. Neatly stacked, signed, dated, clipped together with the evidence summary on top. The title page read, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to explain. She'd know. Felicia had arranged everything. Her assistant served the papers at 9 a.m. sharp, rang the doorbell, handed over the envelope, said nothing, and walked away. Cold. Legal. Efficient. Exactly what I wanted. At 9:12, I got the first message. Just 3 words. What is this? I didn't respond. At 9:17, another. Are you serious? By 9:30, she was calling. I let it ring. 10 minutes later, she tried FaceTime. I watched the screen light up in that sad, frantic way people do when they're trying to outrun consequences. I turned the phone over and let it buzz on the table. By 10 o'clock, the tone shifted. Please, can we talk? We can fix this. I didn't mean it. That's when I realized something strange. Not once, did she say I was wrong. She didn't deny the cheating, didn't deny the manipulation. She just wanted the fallout to go away. At 10:47 a.m., I finally texted back. See the spreadsheet. Nothing else. No anger. No insults. No begging her to admit it. Just the numbers. The timeline. The receipts. Her own words. At 11:02, she sent the longest message I'd ever received from her. Paragraphs. Walls of apologies, confusion, blame-shifting, nostalgia. I didn't read most of it. I saw the first line. I didn't realize how far things had gone, and knew the rest would be self-preservation masquerading as regret. At noon, I muted her number. She was done talking. I was done listening. The days that followed were quieter than I expected. No grand gesture. No surprise visit. Just a slow descent into panic through text messages and voicemails. She went from confused to desperate, and then from desperate to furious. I saved every message. Not for court. For myself. A reminder of the exact moment she realized the world she built on lies was gone, and she had no idea how to rebuild it without me. By Tuesday, she realized the accounts were closed. She couldn't access the savings anymore. Her credit card was declined at a boutique downtown. I know because she messaged me right after, accusing me of sabotaging her life. I didn't reply. She tried to log into the home Wi-Fi. Denied. Tried to use my Netflix account. Gone. Everything that had once been shared was now mine again. That afternoon, she called Felicia directly. Bad move. Felicia doesn't do small talk. She explained calmly, legally, and with no sympathy, that everything was filed and enforceable. That she would have to get her own attorney. That the evidence was on public record now. that her financial reality had changed permanently. At 5:44 p.m., I got a message that simply read, "You win." But this wasn't a game. There were no winners, just survivors. And now she had to figure out how to survive on her own. I learned through a mutual friend that she started trying to sell some of her designer bags and jewelry online, canceled her gym membership, moved in temporarily with one of her yoga friends. The townhouse guy? Apparently he ghosted her the second he realized the money dried up. Shocking, I know. And still, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No revenge high. Just peace. The kind of peace that feels earned, not given. I didn't ruin her life. She did that all on her own. I just handed her the receipt. A week passed before I saw her again. I wasn't planning on it. I'd already started settling into the apartment, my apartment. Sparse, sure, but peaceful in the way a clean slate always is. I had a little routine. Early runs, black coffee, complete silence. No makeup bottles crowding the bathroom. No half-lies over dinner. No pretending. And then one evening, Thursday, I came back to find her waiting outside. Leaning against the hood of her car, sunglasses on even though the sun was nearly gone. Like she thought playing it cool would give her some kind of advantage. She didn't look angry. She looked unsure. It threw me. She asked if we could talk. Said she didn't come to fight. That she just wanted clarity. I told her there was nothing left to clarify. She said she needed to see if I meant it. If I'd really walked away. I didn't invite her in. I didn't even take my keys out of my pocket. She stood there in the parking lot, talking about how it got complicated, how things just spiraled, how she didn't recognize herself anymore. It was the first time in years I saw her without a mask. Not dramatic. Not manipulative. Just hollow. She asked if I hated her. I said no. And that might have hit her harder than anything else I could have said. Because hatred still gives someone space in your life. Still ties you to them. But indifference? That's the real end. She said she didn't know who she was anymore. I said that made two of us. She asked if there was a version of this where we could start over, not go back. Just restart. I told her she was asking the wrong person. That she should be asking herself why she threw it away in the first place. And then I turned and walked past her, unlocked the door, and went inside. She didn't follow. She didn't call again that night. I think that's when it hit her. There was no next chapter. Not with me. After that night, she didn't reach out for a while. I think she needed time to rewrite the narrative, not for me, but for herself. People like her can't sit in silence. They need a version of the truth they can survive in. And if the real one won't let them breathe, they build a prettier lie. It started with mutual friends. Little feelers. One messaged me, asking if I was okay, said she'd heard I'd had a breakdown, that I left in a moment of confusion. Another said she was telling people I had pushed her away for years. That I was cold. Unreachable. Emotionally absent. I didn't respond to any of it. Not out of pride. Out of peace. Because I'd already told my truth, not with words, but with decisions. With silence. With the absence of begging or blame. I wasn't going to shout into a room that wasn't listening. What surprised me, though, was who reached out next. Her sister. Now, that woman never liked me. Always thought I was too quiet, too cautious, too boring. But she called me. Said she'd seen the evidence, that my ex had shown her some of it while trying to explain. She didn't defend her. She didn't excuse her. She just asked one question. How long did you know? And when I told her, when I said months, not days or weeks, she went silent. Said she'd always thought I was naive. Now she knew better. A few days later, she sent me a message. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. And maybe that message meant nothing in the grand scheme. But it reminded me that even when people twist the story, the truth has a pulse. It gets out. It finds its way through the cracks. She could tell whatever story she needed to sleep at night. But I didn't need a story. I had peace. And that was enough. About a month after I filed, I went back to the house. Not to move back in, never that. I'd already let go of that place emotionally. But the legal proceedings required a walkthrough. Asset division. Photos. Notes on condition. Standard stuff, but surreal. It didn't feel like home anymore. The air felt stale. The pictures on the wall felt staged. Even the couch, the same one we used to fall asleep on during movie nights, felt like a stranger's. She was there when I arrived. Dressed down, no makeup, arms folded like she was still waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. We walked room to room. The lawyer's assistant was with us, clipboard in hand, quiet but alert. I noticed how my ex kept looking at me, like she was trying to read something that was no longer written on my face. She pointed to a painting in the hallway and said, "You should take this. You picked it." I told her she could keep it. It was just decoration now. In the kitchen, she hesitated. Asked if I remembered the first meal we cooked together here, pasta, red wine, laughter and bare feet on cold tile. I said yes, because I did. But that kitchen was gone. Not physically. Spiritually. We reached the bedroom last. She stood in the doorway. I walked past her, opened the closet, checked the drawers. Nothing of mine left. When I turned, she was still standing there. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it, she said quietly. And I believed her. I think part of her always thought I'd stay. That I'd swallow the betrayal, patch the walls, rebuild what she burned. But I wasn't that man anymore. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel sadness, or longing, or resentment. I felt free. We finished the walkthrough, signed the documents, shook hands like strangers who used to share a life. Then I left the house we once built together, knowing it would never be mine again, and being okay with that.